Everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I really want to talk about this post-credit scene theory that I've had, and I really want to go more in depth with it now that the season 2 trailer for Dead City is actually out. And now that we actually have the trailer, I can actually do a lot of videos on ideas for the season. I will be doing a recap actually for Dead City season 1. I'll be doing a recap and sort of talk about what's happened overall in the Walking Dead universe, because there's a lot of people that just watched season 1 for the very first time that haven't watched anything Walking Dead related in like many years, and now are wanting to watch season 2 of Dead City that I think, obviously want to be caught up with like, everything that's happening, because maybe you don't have time to like watch everything or whatever. Like, where is Daryl? Where is Rick? What's happening with the rest of the world, right? So yeah, I'll do a video recapping everything, all of the events leading up to Dead City season 2. So expect that video, probably not this week, but next week. I'm actually thinking about releasing that on April 4th, because it'll be exactly 1 month to go until Dead City season 2's premiere at that point. So yeah, I'm definitely very excited, but let's actually talk about the point of the video here, and that is whether or not we could actually see a Rick Grimes CRM post-credit scene after the season 2 finale. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. So the very interesting thing about this idea here is that this is something that we've talked about, a couple of months ago, but now that we actually have the trailer and we see a lot more of what's actually happening with the story, we see that there's like this big battle that's about to happen, or like this war that we're building up to, right? And I guess the question is the war going to happen this season? Like, we're not even really at a point where it's building anything right now. Like, if you look at where we left off, everything is generally pretty peaceful, right? Like, Negan is in New York City. He's going to do whatever he has to do there. And then you have Maggie, who went back to the bricks with Herschel. Yes, Negan's going through some stuff, but overall, like, everything is just kind of as it is, right? But are we really building to like this big battle at the very end of the season where over 8 episodes, they're actually going to build to some sort of like war or something like that? I don't think so. Like, just based off of watching The Walking Dead, like, their story pacing is never really like that. And I think just like, general story pacing anyways isn't like that, because I think you want to build to something. I think that there will be battles, there will be some conflict, there will be something that happens obviously this season, towards the end of the season, I imagine, but in terms of an actual like war, like an all-out war, right? I don't see it happening all this season, because that's just like way too fast to sort of, I guess, end a lot of the story that they set up in season 1. There's a lot of stuff with the Dama and the Croat. And again, I could see those characters dying. I could totally see the Croat and the Dama dying. But in terms of like Bruegel, who they're just bringing into the show now, like, again, Kim Coates is a really incredible actor. I don't see him just like joining the show for like 1 season, especially if they're able to actually get him on the show. Like, he'll be there for at least like 2 seasons, right? So I think that this arc will go into season 3 a little bit. And that's where I think a post-credit scene here could actually happen for Dead City. And combined with a lot of stuff that happened in January of this year, I'm really interested in terms of where they could go here with this show, especially, we don't know when season 3 is going to come out. Season 3 might not be out for another 2 years, because it seems like every season is coming out every 2 years. I could be totally wrong. They could literally start filming season 3 of Dead City this summer. But if they don't, and they do another spin-off in some way, before that, I could see this being a really big event in like 2 years from now, in terms of whatever war that they actually built to here. And I'm wondering if it's Rick Grimes related, again, based off some of what happened in January. So let's actually talk about that. So in January, there was a lot of talk about Rick Grimes' potential return to the Walking Dead universe, because at Andy Lincoln News on Twitter just sort of, posted a tweet, or I guess just made a post, because it's X now, right? But saying that, Andrew Lincoln, or I guess Rick Grimes, could appear in another spinoff for the Walking Dead universe. So it was something like that. I don't really remember exactly what it was, but everyone for the most part was just like, what does this mean? Like, are you confirming that, or are you just sort of like, wondering, or just suggesting like, he could, appear technically in another spinoff, which is like, yeah, that is true. Whether or not it was, confirmation, or it was just sort of throwing that thought out there, like he could appear in another spinoff. Yeah, I mean, yeah, technically that's definitely true, right? Then you look at what Gimple said, a few weeks ago, and he actually confirmed basically that, like in terms of seeing Rick Grimes again, like it's not likely to be in a season 2 of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. Actually, what he said was, and this was in response to whether or not we could see Rick or Michonne again in like The Ones Who Live season 2, or like something else. And he says, I mean, the plan was to keep it limited, not necessarily never to see those characters again, but to keep it limited. But I always say, you never know. There's so many. I've been very careful to not say, oh, that'll never happen, because it does. So, there are possibilities, and there's possibilities of all sorts of strange iterations of shows with those characters and with other characters. So, I think it's entirely possible. So you look at that tweet, which is sort of like wondering whether or not, Rick could appear in a different spinoff and just in general. And, like the account obviously knows a lot about Andrew Lincoln. And so you're just kind of wondering like, well, maybe it's nothing, maybe it's something. But then you literally hear Scott Gimple say that. And then you're just like, okay, so it seems like, the plan likely is, not for The Ones Who Live season 2, just based off of what he says, because he's saying that the plan was to keep it limited. Like maybe the plan's changed, but, if the plan was to keep it limited, he does say right after, not necessarily never to see those characters again, but to keep it limited. So I think that really was probably like a self-contained story of Rick and Michonne reuniting, right? But to see those characters again, there could be something else here that could actually happen in terms of maybe Rick showing up in Dead City. Now, this is where things get very interesting. So at some point in January, there was actually something that was filming for like one day. And I've talked about this in the past, but I never really went into it a lot more because, I've talked about this obviously like months ago, but like I probably should have explained better so people know exactly what I'm talking about here. But in January, at some point, I think it was like mid-January or something like that, but there was actually something that was most likely going to be The Walking Dead related, being filmed in New York City. Now, what's really interesting about this is because it's like exterior shots, right? It was a one-day shot, and actually they had a bunch of signs up everywhere, I guess where they were filming, which basically said that it was a new series titled Stalwart, which is obviously the production company that produces a lot of the Walking Dead series, right? So I think that was literally just a code name for the series, but it says it's in production for a new series, and again, they filmed for like one day. Apparently, though, the people who were there, I guess, sort of checking everything out, said that there was nothing that seemed to be Walking Dead related, in terms of, I guess, zombies being around or whatever. But at this point in The Walking Dead, we all know at this point of The Walking Dead, you don't necessarily need to have zombies around for it to look like The Walking Dead. Like, they've been in so many places now where it's like literally like normal life, right? Because everything has just been protected in certain places like the CRM or the Commonwealth. So anything like that, if it doesn't look like The Walking Dead, that's really nothing to me. But in terms of actually filming something here for one day, it is really interesting because, like, again, that happened in January and it was just sort of not talked about. So I don't know, maybe this was actually for a new series and it was not Walking Dead related like at all. And again, I saw this from @TWU Filming on Twitter, which is like really the best, like most reliable account for this type of stuff. And again, we still don't know what it means. It literally could be for another show. It's just more that from Stalwart, my understanding so far is that they produce pretty much every Walking Dead show. I think that there might be other shows, but this would have to be for something new. And also, it was a one-day thing, which, because you had to film that a couple of months ago, building to Dead City Season 2's premiere, the finale is going to air like June 22nd or something like that. This almost tells me that like this could be post-credit scene related, because if it is for Dead City or it's teasing, something for like a new series, or maybe it's like a little teaser or something attached like the very end, so maybe it's technically not a post-credit scene. I just feel like there's something off here, right? Like there's got to be something else here. Gimple lately has been talking a lot about like doing spinoffs, and he has something else in mind, and so I really feel like, and there's also talk about something else filming this summer that was Walking Dead related that we don't know anything about yet, but obviously in the summer we will know more about, or maybe we'll find out way before that, right? Like once the show actually airs here, like season 2 of Dead City, they actually announce a new spinoff. Like honestly, there's an AMC Upfronts event actually happening in April. They could announce the new show then, right? So I'm expecting that we're literally going to find out about a new Walking Dead series here, and what the story is going to be. Is it Rick related? Is it something that's going to be setting up like this future battle here? Like there's something here. My point in bringing up all of this stuff here is that it looks like we are building to something a little bit bigger here for The Walking Dead. Something that we really wanted with The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, and they just never delivered on that. I think that's one of the reasons why Dead City Season 2 was just so disappointing, was that the decisions made with, the bigger story arcs from season 1 didn't really matter to the overall Walking Dead universe. Like I thought that some of the variant stuff was going to be coming over to America, right? Like that would have been really cool to actually have some of the variants in America. I know that there are variants, and that still could technically be a thing if they do have like the serum and all of that, right? But I wanted that more in America to actually affect, a bigger story with the CRM and this and that. And really a lot of that just like went nowhere. And I don't know why they're not doing that. There's still a lot of stuff that makes no sense from the World Beyond post-credit scene. So there's a lot of mystery still with a lot of just everything. And that's why I asked the question. is there a bigger battle or war starting between whoever's going to end up running New York City by the end of season 2 and the CRM? Now, important things to sort of keep in mind here when it comes to the actual story is certain things that actually happened in the Ones Who Lives finale that was just, thrown out there. You could tell Gimple put that in there in the story because it wouldn't matter in the future, which is obviously the 14-year thing, right? 14 years left of resources, according to Major General Beale, at that current rate or whatever, before all of humans would be extinct, right? And so, I mean, that was the current rate, right, at that plan of what the CRM was doing. But obviously what Rick did there in killing Major General Beale obviously changed those plans. And so if the CRM right now is just helping people out and giving people supplies and all of that, I think they're going to run out of resources a lot faster unless they come up with a different plan. Like, that's something a new series could definitely focus on, is like, well, what can they do to actually help people out, right? And so I think that when you look at the fact that a big thing at the very end there is that the CRM is actually going to run out of resources. And so that's why Major General Beale is wiping out communities, which means that to the CRM, resources, is definitely a concern. And then you look at Dead City Season 2 that takes place like years after The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. And what are they discovering right now? Resources. They're using methane to actually power on this city, and other communities that aren't from New York City are finding out about it and they want their resources. So the first community here that we learn is New Babylon, right? Will the CRM want the methane technology that the Croat and Dama have? I don't know what their group is going to be called. That'll be one of the nice things in season 2, I think, is learning what the group is just called in general, like all the different groups and everything, because season 1 set up a lot of this stuff, but season 1 of like every Walking Dead show was always like just like the introductory thing to everything, right? Season 2 is when they actually start to get into everything. So we'll learn a lot more as we're watching that show, but I think that the CRM probably would want that technology, right? But New Babylon obviously is going to be the first group trying to get this, and we'll see where that goes. Like, maybe they win. They probably don't win, but obviously it's not going to be as simple as just like one side wins. Like, maybe there's like both sides merge together, right? So Bruegel teams up with New Babylon, though Bruegel seems to not like any mainlanders. Like in the trailer, he says any mainlanders that step foot on this island, blah, blah, blah. So I think that maybe that's not a thing for him, but it depends on where the story goes this season, right? Like maybe he's willing to accept help and they team up, but maybe it's something very, very bad. And so Maggie and Negan are just like, okay, we can't do this. Or maybe Negan is actually in a position of power now where he does like that, but Maggie's just like, no, I can't do this. We need help. And so somehow the CRM and Rick find out about all of this here. Unless, of course, New Babylon is a part of the CRM, because we don't know how, like, powerful the CRM are, like, New Babylon as well. We don't know how big of a community it is. Like, it seems to be actually a pretty big community. So I'm really interested in, like, learning a lot of those details here. And so just combining everything together, like, that's why I'm sort of under the impression here that there's going to be some sort of build up, in this story here to the finale of this war that's going to be coming here. And I'm wondering, based off of Gimple's comments on like Rick Grimes' potential return in another spin-off series and etc., or like a new series, that thing that was filmed, in January that maybe is not Walking Dead related at all, but maybe it is. If there's a connection here to seeing a post-credit scene at the very end, like after we get all the drama of the season, there's a tease for season 3, which maybe we'd have to wait 2 years for, but that Rick and the CRM could actually be involved in that. Like, I'm really wondering if we actually are building to something bigger here, because again, Gimple's comments on that, like, that's just the one thing about it that makes me like, okay, I think that this could be possible. If Gimple didn't say that at all, and I'm not sure who actually asked the question, whoever asked Gimple that question, thank you so much. Like, that's incredible, because I'm always wanting a lot of journalists to actually ask like really important questions, like on things like this, and there's never questions asked about like specific things like this, and maybe they're told not to, I don't know, but like being asked this question here, like amazing, like just that's exactly what we wanted, right? Because Gimple was asked something similar when The Ones Who Live ended, but his tone on that was totally different. It was just like, well, I would hope so, and it's like a dream of mine or whatever. I'm paraphrasing. I remember exactly what he said, but it was just it was something like that, and now he's saying it's entirely possible. So I'm really curious as to where they're building here. And again, because Dead City, sometimes you have to wait like an extra year for the season. Like, it's possible we had to wait an extra year because of the fact that there was a writer's strike and, The Ones Who Live came out, and just the scheduling of everything. Like that writer's strike affected quite a bit. It wasn't just The Walking Dead, obviously. It was a lot of other shows. And so the release schedules for everything got pushed back quite a bit. And I could see that honestly really affecting Dead City quite a bit. So maybe we still get season 3 next year. I am really curious if we are actually going to be getting something here where New York City has power on, and Negan maybe is the new leader here. Maybe it's Bruegel. Maybe there's like this really crazy cliffhanger where it's actually something that could be bad for a lot of people. And that's where the CRM get involved, or I guess technically Rick Grimes, right? Like Rick and Michonne finding out that, Negan is the leader of like this big community, maybe New Babylon and Bruegel and everyone join forces in season 2 at the very end. Could you imagine that? And they actually betray the Croat and Dama, and then, Negan is just the new leader alongside Bruegel of New York City, and now they're just taking all these resources, doing all of this, and now Rick and Michonne have to get involved, and maybe actually Maggie goes to see them. That could be totally where a new series is actually going to be going. Like, I'm really curious about just that direction there. Because like, what if Dead City season 2 doesn't get like I guess a renewal for season 3, and like that's the ending of this story, is like set up for like this bigger war here, and that's like Dead City, right? And so a new series with Rick and Michonne, Maggie and Negan, and any other characters you want to bring in would just be set, I guess, in New York City. And just a really exciting reunion story to be told there, right? Like, I'm just really curious on like the direction of a lot of this. Obviously, this is a theory. I'm just wondering. I'm throwing a lot of ideas out there. But Gimple obviously is planning a lot of this out right now. So whether or not I have all of this completely 100% right, or like none of it right, or just like a little bit of it right, it's fun to talk about, because I am really wondering how he plans to reunite everybody, how a lot of that is actually going to work out here over the next like little bit, because it's been a year since The Ones Who Live came out, right? So they've had some time to talk about this a lot. And again, we just heard his comments a couple of weeks ago. So based off of the trailer for season 2, it just seems like it makes a lot of sense now, right? Like, that is going to be the big story here of the season, is the war for resources that the Dama and the Croat have. And I'm curious as to like all the betrayal that's going to happen here, with all the characters and whatnot, and where this is building to. But I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below on, I guess, this theory. Do you think that that's sort of where we're building to with all of this? Like, combined with a lot of what I said before about, Gimple's recent comments, some of the stuff that was filmed that could potentially be Walking Dead related, and how do you think Rick Grimes is going to return to the story? Do you actually think we could get a tease in a post-credit scene? Maybe Rick's not actually there, but it's a tease as to, his involvement in a season 3, or maybe it's a new series or something like that, because they filmed that one day in New York City. So I'm like, I know Dead City season 2 filmed in Boston. They could have just used that location because obviously they're all in that area anyways, right? So maybe it was just more exterior stuff. It was something they filmed for like one day. So obviously it wasn't anything too crazy, right? But yeah, anyways, let me know your thoughts down below on how you think a lot of this is going to play out here. Dead City is going to be here in like, 40 days now? I think it's exactly 40 days, actually. But anyways, hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.